All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back to the 210 show. I am subbing in for our host, at least temporarily, Mr. Raider. I am the hater with fast, unless I will allow the rest of my colleagues to jump on in here.
I am Angry Joey.
And I'm Woo Pig Suey.
All right, I know it's been a minute since we last talked to y'all, but we got a lot to talk about. So we're gonna kick off the proceedings this evening by talking about the NBA trade frenzy and draft that just took place. We're also going to get into a little bit of an NFL spirit a little bit, and we're going to talk about the tight end position to start off with. We have an article from ESPN that dropped today that we're gonna dissect a little bit and give our opinions on.
Yeah,
And then we have
not only that, but we're actually have to tie into some dynasty fantasy football implications as well with that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, if we have time within the hour, we're gonna do a little preview of the AFC East as well before we head off into training camp. We're a couple of weeks away from that. So I don't know about you fellas. I'm ready. I'm ready to dig on in here.
Get it?
Let's do it.
All right. So yeah. So the draft already concluded. The NBA. We also had the start of free agency, which also meant that some very substantial NBA trades have taken place and have actually concluded or completed here. And I think the biggest one that everybody was anticipating was where Giannis Antetokounmpo was going to play next. And it looks like, there's also speculation he was going to go to Boston and potentially maybe OKC, maybe the Lakers. But nope, he's going to South Beach. He's taking his talents to South Beach. Himself and Bobby Portis are going to Miami, and Miami sent a whole load of players, four players and 4 first-round picks and a second-round pick in 2033. So the only person, I'd say the biggest person of significance of Miami that's going to Milwaukee was Tyler Hero. And so now you have Giannis, Bobby Portis, and Bam Adebayo, who are currently, at least right now, I guess they're trying to make some other moves too, apparently. But as of right now, that's their big stars right now for Miami. So I think the biggest loser here is Boston, and we'll get to the reason why for them a little bit later. But I'm curious to see what you guys think about this Miami acquiring Giannis. Does that make them a top 3 seed in the East right now?
No, and not only that, but I think it was it's a very curious move on Giannis's position. The fact that he actually went to a non-contender. So he's clearly chasing the money at this point. Would you guys agree? I mean that's he's definitely not chasing his ship. With him going to Miami.
I don't know. I mean, were they not going to pay him was it Minnesota?
So
Milwaukee.
Milwaukee. Yeah. Were they
Milwaukee,
not going to pay
yeah.
him with Milwaukee?
No, it wasn't a question of if they were going to pay him or not. His thing now, I guess to answer the initial question, he didn't leave for the money. They were going to try to do whatever it took to keep him in Milwaukee. The problem was they exhausted all of their resources in the previous 6 to 8 years that they had nothing left to build around Giannis. And so he clearly saw, the writing on the wall there. He didn't want to waste the remaining years of his prime there because he's 31. He didn't want to waste the remaining years of his prime in Milwaukee, and so he wanted to go somewhere else. Now, of course, Milwaukee was trying to make sure they got something for him, knowing the fact that, they didn't want him to leave for nothing. And so they made it clear. They wanted to move him before the draft happened 2 weeks ago. They wanted to make sure they had a Monday deadline, the Monday before the draft. And so they opened it up to everybody. And the best thing that they could agree with was with Miami. So they got draft picks that they wanted. They do have some building blocks with Tyler Hero and Jaime Jaquez. And, they're starting from scratch basically. And Giannis was definitely at the point where he didn't want to do that with them. So
I guess my question is okay, So what is he after? Is he after the money or is he after a ring? You know what I mean? Because
He's
if he's after the money, then he made the right choice. But if he's after a ring, why in the world did he not sign with somebody like OKC?
so
Well, OKC probably
I
didn't have the
right.
assets for him.
Well, or perhaps maybe they were, they would have asked too much, for Giannis. I mean, I don't know. I'm a little bit befuddled by this trade. I mean, this is one of the last landing spots that I would have actually seen him go to.
Yeah,
Like you, hater, I was kind of seeing, the Celtics, OKC, one of those types of teams, but he lands with the Heat. I did not see that one coming.
yeah, I don't even know if OKC was in contention because I think they're gonna try and save their cap room because they got a lot of young stars they're gonna have to start paying, you
Right.
know, that uh,
Yeah, that's a good
but
point. I agree.
but you're right. He could have gone to a team like maybe the Spurs. The Spurs could have afforded to get him, and that would have been a monster combo.
Well,
I
oh my gosh. I mean, you're
well,
talking, at least 3 years of championships at that point.
Yeah.
Especially,
well,
with what the Spurs pulled off with Wemby in a 5-year contract, at max deal. I mean, so anyway, I totally divert the conversation. But anyway, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, so you gotta look at it from both the team perspective and Giannis's perspective, right? So the only leverage that Giannis has is, okay, these are the list of teams that I will sign with after my player option next year, right? So that cuts the number of teams that are general contenders to get him. If they're going to make it worth actually trading up the assets that you're going to have to get for somebody like him. And as far as the Bucks go, it's like, all right, I need to maximize this return as much as I possibly can because it's not like Milwaukee is a free agent destination, and we're going to have to, we got a new coach here, we got a new, I think they got a new general manager as well, and so we're just starting completely from scratch. So they had to understand that part of it. Now, if you look at it from Giannis's point of view, I don't know if he wants to he definitely did not want to go west because it's clearly you already got 2 big dogs already there, that we already know about, like the usual suspect with the Spurs and the Thunder. But then if you add Denver, if you add Houston, at least right now, and potentially Dallas, with what they're doing, right?
Oh,
You're
you
gonna
think
have
Dallas?
that's a
You
lot
think
of country.
Dallas is gonna be a contender?
I
Well,
don't.
maybe not a contender, but I'm saying like they're gonna be a thorn in people's sides though,
Well, perhaps they're
and
gonna throw
Minnesota
some
too.
losses people away, but with what's his name, Castle, but
Yeah.
yeah, they're still a few players away, from being able to be taken serious.
Y Yes, for in general, yes. But my general point here is at least the path like the West goes at least 9 to 10 teams, like easy, right? As
Sure.
far as if you stay in the East, you're talking like a strong 6 teams, maybe 7, right? And then with the shakeups that's happened since then, it's probably even a more clear 5 or 6 teams right now, that
Okay,
if
so
you're
having
actually gonna
said that,
include Miami
with
in that.
him actually going to the other you're staying in the same conference, who are the contenders there?
Okay, so, of course, you have to include the Knicks in the conversation, eh, as much as I don't want
As
to,
much
but
as
at
this
least for
kicks my
now,
ass
they're the
hit,
champs.
I have to say it, but they are the champs. What do you say?
Yeah, they're the champs. We will respect the champs on this show. So, we have to include them as a top 2 or top 3 team. You have to include Philly. We'll get to their transaction in a minute. And then my Pistons,
I would
I
include the
don't know.
Pistons.
I don't know. Right now I put them at 4 or 5 or something like that right now. Cleveland still has to be considered a contender as well.
All right,
I
dude,
think
you're trying
Charlotte
to
looks okay,
but let's be
and
fair.
Atlanta. Yeah.
Pistons, they are contenders. They're
I
they're gonna be tough. They are a good team.
yeah, they're still a playoff team. This is the, let me be clear. They're definitely a playoff team. They're a top 6 seed in the East. No doubt. Now, are they title contenders? like, as far as they can win the East and they can definitely give a run to whoever comes out of the West, I don't agree with that right now as they're presently constructed. Now, we'll see with some of the other rumors that they got going on as potential moves that they could make. We'll figure that out. But as of right now, today, I just consider them a strong playoff team, but not a contender yet.
So let me ask you this: do you think that Giannis actually going to the Heat is going to make them a contender?
It
I think
depends on who they bring in at point guard. That's gonna be the key.
Yeah.
yeah, and the Heat has a history of putting together, deep playoff runs and championships. So, I mean, I can see the appeal. They're a well-run program. So,
Yeah, and I think that was probably, like, the biggest I think that was, like, the biggest, mm, sticking point for Giannis, for him to choose them instead of Boston. But, I mean, hey, we'll see, The division is winnable. The only real competition right now is Charlotte, and Charlotte made a transaction themselves, and we can get to that in a little bit.
Well, and now
So
Boston, they're not going anywhere anytime soon.
yeah,
well,
I mean, to Hader's point, the East is definitely weaker than the West. The West right now is gonna be a buzzsaw for the foreseeable future.
Yeah.
yep,
Um,
Agree.
and you've
Agree.
got teams like, I mean, look at what the Knicks just did. They got hot at the end of the season. They ran through the East, were well rested, and they came against, an inexperienced Western team that had to battle their way through, and they
yep,
ended up, pulling it off. So I can see the appeal for staying in the East because you're gonna have an easier road getting to the championship. And then once you get to the chip, anything can happen, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point, Suey.
yeah,
I agree.
yeah. I think since we're on that, let's get the big dog out of the way here. So the consequence of Giannis going to Miami left a gaping hole for the Boston Celtics to make a deal, and they went from a potential trade of Jaylen Brown to potentially going to the Milwaukee Bucks. They end up trading Jaylen Brown from the Boston Celtics to the 76ers for Paul George, 2 firsts, and 2 seconds. And I will say this I I'll just do it like this. I am almost of the mindset that this is the close to the dumbest trade ever. The Luka trade, it's still up there. It's still up there. But boy, this is a mighty second. I mean, a a championship player, a championship MVP player, you trade him for a dude who is past his prime. A 36-year-old dude who cannot even play even 60 games if you asked him to. And you trade him and that's all you get? I mean, yes, the 2 firsts, sure. The 2 firsts, the 2 seconds, okay, great. But for someone who's entering their prime versus getting somebody that's exiting their prime, it's wow. So good luck to Jaylen Brown as he goes to Philly. But all the pressure's on Jason Tatum now. I mean, this is your team, this is your squad, and I hope you're fully healed up because man, it's whew, I can't believe it. What a consolation prize, my goodness.
Yeah, it's kinda weird. From everything I read, the market for Jaylen Brown just wasn't there, and I think it had a lot to do with his contract.
Right.
He was making superstar money, and he was a really good player. And in today's market, you can't pay superstar money for a really good player. It
Yeah.
it just it soaks up too much of your he any team he went to, it would soak up 30% of their cap.
Yep.
And as good as Jaylen Brown is, he's not worth 30% your cap. So that's just why I don't think there was a very much I don't think very many teams that actually considered going for him, and that's what limited the amount of, I think that's why he didn't get that you didn't get that much for him.
Yeah. I I agree. It's just I'll tell you what, and this is just a slight I really thought about this too when everyone was talking about, when they signed Jaylen Brown to that deal, and you basically had 2 guys that are making over will have almost $300 million on your books
Mhm.
in the foreseeable future. is definitely something that the new ownership is definitely not keen for. But I think the greatest lie that has ever been told was by Jerry Jones, and the only reason why I bring this up was I believe it's now been like 8 or 9 years ago, and he said on an interview is, "There's no amount of money that I would pay for a Super Bowl." Well, I think that we've seen the moves that he has made since then, and clearly that's not the case. And I think with the new NBA rules, they have really emphasized you will pay a price if you try to have an overabundance amount of money on your books. You will pay. And
Yeah.
and these new owners are not playing around. Like you're seeing like these what do you call it, private equity groups and stuff like that. They're really having their influence on these NBA teams, and they're like, "Hey, we want a balanced spreadsheet and balanced accounting books before we want a championship." So, I mean,
Yeah, because it's a business at this point.
yeah. Yep.
You know, it's it's
It's
it's gone from, like, a billionaire play toy to a business, and
yes.
it's being run like one, and I think that has a lot to do with it, but the NBA, man, they're the way they've set up the CBA and the cap, they're so anti-super team. I think that that Golden State team
Yeah.
with when they added,
Kevin Durant.
uh, yeah, when they added KD, I think that broke something in the NBA, and they were like, "We're gonna make rules to make sure that that never happens again." Between LeBron and the Heat
Yep.
and the Golden State Warriors, I think the NBA said, "You know what? We want a competitive league, and we're gonna do everything in our power to make sure this crap never happens again." And that's why you have such strict rules now.
Yeah. And it puts a lot of emphasis on it on your depth now because if you're making a choice of not spending that type of money, then that incentivizes that you need to have your scouting department needs to be on point. Your drafting needs to be on point if you want to remain competitive in the league. And I don't know if Cleveland has figured that part out yet because they just signed Donovan Mitchell to a huge contract a couple days ago. So they're still going to ride, at least from what I know, they're still riding with the James Harden Donovan Mitchell pairing. I know they're trying to. I guess they're trying to get LeBron. I don't know how that's going to work, but yeah, but not. But there's not a lot of teams that are shopping around to get big name players with big name contracts anymore.
Yeah, and I just don't here's what I don't understand. I don't understand why it works so often.
What do you mean?
And maybe I'm just missing something. I would think, especially with players like LeBron or like honestly anybody, like you take Oklahoma City for instance.
Hmm.
You've got 3 or 4 super talented players. If I'm surprised that like 4 of the young superstars in the league don't all get together and say, "Hey, we'll all take a big cut. We'll get together on the same team. We won't make nearly as much money on the front end, but we'll win like 7 or 8 championships together, become legends, and on the back end, we'll make 10 times what we would have made in endorsements and shoe deals and podcast and, TV deals after our careers are over." Like, I'm surprised that young players aren't being advised to form super teams, take a big cut so that they can all fit under the cap, and then, you know, get the rewards. But it seems like every player wants the max, and they're not willing to go anything lower. LeBron, it was claimed that he was gonna get the max,
Yeah.
and that was the only thing he was considering, and surprise, surprise, nobody was gonna offer him that. So all of a sudden, then he magnanimously come out and said, "Oh, you know what? I'll take the league minimum after all."
It's, it's amazing. It's amazing how your thought processes changes when your options are going away.
Yeah, yeah, when none of the teams you expected to offer you a max offer you a max, all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, you know what? Maybe I'll take the league minimum."
Right.
But for him, he's a freaking billionaire. Why does he care what they pay?
Eh,
Like, I'd have been taking the league minimum for years if I'd have been LeBron. I'd have been
yeah.
like, "Yeah, give me whatever you want." I make more in Nike money and endorsement money and all my other side businesses and hustles than I'll ever make in the NBA going forward. I don't care. I just want more rings. Like,
Right.
I don't know why he's not just completely focused on rings and taking the lowest amount of money he can so that he can guarantee more rings. Because had he played it right, like 8 years ago when he went to the Lakers, if he'd been like, hey guys, give me the league minimum and let's get some superstars on this team, he could have had 3 or 4 more rings instead of 1.
Well, eh, okay, so I think it falls into 2 categories here. The first is, while he was at the peak of his powers, you couldn't tell him anything. And he was so enamored of, I am the face of the league, and as the face of the league, I have the obligation to make sure that the owners understand that they respect me as the face of the league, which means I need to make the most money out of everybody. And so
So in
he
other
figured,
words, you're thinking that his hubris actually got in
Yeah,
the way of that.
ego. His
oh,
ego got in the way.
1000%, yes. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And 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 that's the biggest part that he did not like. It was only 2 ways he could have done this right. And Wu Pig, we talked about this a lot. He could have either made the most money, but the level of coach that he plays with could have balanced that out, or you take less money and you surround yourself with comparable players who are also not exactly on your level, but very close to it, and with lesser coaching, and you can still make it that way, right? But he tried to thread a needle. I want the most money, and I want total control once I get to wherever destination that I'm in. So that's why, he never played with Coach Pop. I honestly and truly believe if he would have left from Miami to San Antonio instead of the Lakers, he would have had multiple championships at that point. He would probably have more than Jordan right now if he would have done that. The mind of LeBron plus the mind of Pop at that point it'd have been killer for the league. Like, it'd have been over.
I don't
But
think Pop and LeBron would
you don't think so? I mean, I kind of
have.
So on that one, I disagree.
okay.
Just because I mean, let's not forget the fact that he actually, the Pop actually coached him in the Olympics. I mean,
Yep,
they did
yep.
have a very,
Yeah,
very
but there's a big
relationship.
difference in the Olympics and playing on NBA
I
schedule.
understand, but at the same time, there was a relationship there, and not only that, but Pop actually rushed to his defense on a number of occasions. So yeah, I think that I would respectfully disagree with you on that one. The fact that, Pop, I think, I agree with you on that one, Hater, in the sense that if he was on the Spurs and he was allowed to be molded or receptive to that molding, then I think that LeBron would have won multiple ships.
Yep.
I don't know. I see. That would be like Aaron Rodgers and Bill Belichick being on the same team. Like, it just
Oh,
oil and water.
I don't agree with that at
LeBron
all.
LeBron likes to be in control, and Pop is one of those ones where he's like, "I'm the coach. You shut up and do what I tell you." So I don't know
That
if those 2
yeah.
things. I don't know if those 2 things would have meshed.
But see, here's the thing though. I honestly believe that LeBron's hubris that we talked about would have taken a back seat to Pop because Pop has already demonstrated that that he could work with multiple superstars at once. B, the system is catered to a guy who is getting older, and he demonstrated that against LeBron multiple times. And the organization as a whole knows how to build around whatever type of player that you want. They know how
Yeah,
to do it.
not only that, but it's not like Pop, was estranged from working with loud personalities.
Correct. Right. He did have Dennis Rodman at some point.
Well, either way, I don't want to talk bad about LeBron. I think he's one of the greatest players of all time.
Oh,
If
without a
not
doubt.
if not the greatest player of all time, but I think he could have. I think in his later years he could have done more to solidify that legacy had he taken a
Oh,
little bit
to
less
your
money.
point, I mean, yeah, here he is sitting at, being a billionaire.
Hmm.
I
Mhm.
mean, if he really, really wanted to, he could have gotten more rings. I totally agree with you on that one, Pixie.
Yeah,
Well, I will say, yeah, I don't wanna, delve too much on a LeBron bashing fest today, but I will say this, and I wanna ask this question real quickly. which trade is worse, the Luka trade or the Jaylen Brown trade that just happened?
No, there's no if they're not even in the same universe, Vader. Again, Jaylen Brown, he didn't have the there wasn't a market for him because of his contract, the size of his contract. That's why they had to take what they could get for him. And they at least got something for him, right? And he didn't work on their team. That so that it makes perfect sense why they had to make the trade and why they got so little. Luca, that that was the cornerstone of their team. It was their superstar. And they didn't open him up to the free market where they could have gotten everything for him. Instead, they, behind closed doors, made a deal with the Lakers. They got an aging, broken star that they got rid of 2 years later, and the entire fan base revolted against them because they got rid of a beloved player that was in his prime and a top 3 player in the league. Like, eh, Jaylen Brown is not a superstar player. Luka is
Oh, yeah.
every bit a part of a superstar player. So, yeah, it's orange it's apples and oranges. They're not even close. I don't think there's ever gonna be a trade as bad as the Luka trade. That is the worst trade in NBA history, in
Well,
my opinion.
yeah, you know what?
Yeah,
Thank you for that. It
and Jaylen Brown is not a superstar. He's a great player making superstar money.
I
Uh,
I'll go back to that, but I
hey,
will
man,
say you
I
won
can't
me
say I
over.
disagree with that one there, Wookie. I mean, that's a good take. I mean, I side with you on that one.
Yeah, yeah, you won me over too because I completely forgot about the fact that the way the Luka trade went down and it wasn't open to everybody, that you're absolutely right. So, yeah, yeah, I thought it was close, but nope, it's not. Nico Harrison will never see a GM offer again, and he will remain on the unemployment line. So, yep, you're right. Okay, so another substantial trade that went down was the Minnesota Timberwolves. They traded Nas Reed as I think a couple picks. I don't see it here, but they traded for I was about to say Lonzo. LaMelo. They traded for LaMelo Ball. So I don't know about y'all, but they may be the NBA League Pass All-Star team with now Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball on the same team. Like, you're gonna see some wild stuff all season between them two. It's gonna be wild, man.
Yeah, that is a crazy combo right there. That could blow up spectacularly, or it could work really great. Who knows?
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, okay, organization understands they have a superstar. We got to build around him. We got to make this thing work. So we gotta do whatever it takes. Like that's a by any means necessary type of deal. So
Yeah,
I
and I'll
I
be
don't
honest,
know.
I haven't been watching a whole lot of LaMelo Ball. I mean, I don't know how good the kid is, to be honest. All reports say he's really great, but yeah, I don't know. Well, I
Here,
just don't know.
okay. So I can fill that gap for you. So here's the thing. Lamelo is he's a showman if nothing else. He can shoot the ball, he can pass the ball, he can run an offense. But he he just sometimes just does just wacky shit for just no apparent reason. He will openly pass up a wide open layup so he can cross someone up and and shoot a 32-foot three-pointer for no apparent reason. Not even paying attention to if his team is leading or not, if it's a close game or not, or how much time is on the clock. He just does it. And it's a little bit of an immaturity type issue, right? So I think the gelling between him and Anthony Edwards, who definitely wants a championship bad. I know a lot of people, some people want to compare his mentality to Jordan. I don't know about that, but at what point will Anthony Edwards have to take that leadership role and you know probably have to almost threaten to choke the shit out of him if he does one of those wild things.
I don't know. I mean, I'm assuming Anthony Edwards needs that ring so he can start making more money, so he can pay for all them kids. But
Oh, well, yeah, he has contracts to take care of that too. But, um, okay,
did he have like
now
5 baby mamas or something like that?
I thought he just had one, and well, I thought he just had one, and he basically paid the kid off for the next 18 years, one flat rate, and totally outsmarted the baby mama. So, I don't know. But two quick things before we jump over to NFL. N- Now, I guess we'll get to this one. So, there's a trade that's on hold right now. That's between the Clippers and the Raptors. So Kawhi Leonard, a 2-1-0, or at least a San Antonio former star, right? Kawhi Leonard, he was agreed to in principle to a trade from the Clippers to the Raptors for Brandon Ingram, another player, 3 firsts and 2 seconds. The problem is it's on hold because the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard are under investigation for potentially having money being paid to him under the table to skirt the salary cap. So the league is still investigating it, and they have said that they will not allow this transaction to take place until their investigation is concluded and they find if there's any punishment to be doled out.
Always,
So
it's
The
always the quiet ones, isn't it?
it's the
yeah,
Raptors.
yeah,
The Raptors put the kibosh on it, right?
no, the league did. Now the thing is, it's kind of
No,
weird. Like
I heard it was the Raptors who did it. Are we sure about
that's
that?
so the news report that I saw said that the league said that we will not allow this transaction to conclude until our investigation is done. Now the part that I heard about the Raptors is they were the only ones that would openly accept whatever punishment that could potentially come out of this investigation. Who knows? So, but again, it's still out there. As of right now, Kawhi Leonard is still a Clipper, at least right now, and Brandon Ingram and those guys, they can't. They're still Raptors until the league says otherwise. So
He's actually still a Clipper. I thought
All
that
right,
was
so
the deal.
here it is. Okay, here's the thing. The Toronto Raptors released a statement indicating that they were informed by the league office that they would assume the risk of any potential negative outcome if the trade went through before the investigation concluded by the NBA. As a result, the franchise decided to pause the deal until the NBA probe is completed. So it
okay,
was the Raptors, but it's because
got it.
the NBA
Okay,
and the NBA league said, if you take him, then you guys are taking the punishment along with him. And they were like,
got you.
"Whoa, hold
Okay,
up, hold on. We didn't do it. The Clippers did it. Why are we
yeah.
getting punished?"
Okay, okay. Well, thanks for that clarification, Woo Big. Yeah. Okay, so that makes sense. Okay, yeah. Nobody wants to take. We don't want to inherit that. Like,
Yeah,
and they were saying like there was potential that if the investigation at its worst would make Kawhi Leonard a free agent. Period. So I I I don't know. Like if it could void his contract altogether. So I don't know,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
This is very very sticky. So, but there's a whole other thing that in regards to this whole thing that will be too long for this show right now. So, but that was the the big dominoes that came through. Oh, that's the other thing. So we do have a resident Laker fan here,
Heck yeah, we
and
do.
I am curious. How do you feel about your Lakers off season so far?
I love it. I think it was great.
Okay.
I know it's getting trolled a lot online, the snowflake Lakers and all that stuff, but uh all of our trades made sense and I love the fact that we are aggressive. So many times the Lakers are kind of like the Cowboys. They wait to the last moment and they act like the league is like the players are just going to fall into their lap. And this one, like trade deadline started and they started making moves as soon as it opened. So I really appreciated that. And then as far as the trades go, they they all made perfect sense. We picked up we first of all everybody and their mother knew we needed a center.
Mhm.
So they picked up, one of the best centers they could pick up in a trade in Kessler.
Yeah.
He's a vertical lob threat. He's a rim protector. He's exactly the kind of player that Luka loves.
Yeah.
So they got their starting center. And then they also picked up, Colin Sexton, Quentin Grimes,
Yep.
was that Sandro? I'm not even going to try to say his last name.
Yeah. No,
Sandro
that's
M.
not.
He
Yeah.
was like
Yeah.
a backup center, and then
Yeah.
Kevin Looney, right? So
Yep.
like they drafted a 3-and-D player. They traded for a 3-and-D player. So we got two athletic wings, which we needed wing support. We needed a center. We got a primary center and a backup center. We lost some players that I hated to lose. I hated to lose Rui.
Yeah.
I hated to lose Marcus Smart. Th those 2 players were Mark Smart was just played hard,
Yeah.
and for what he was making, he was a steal.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is. You can't pick up talent without losing some. So, yeah, I mean, it is I will admit, it is odd, the number of white players on the team. It's weird, but the 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 league's changed, man. There's plenty of white talent in the NBA now, especially with all the Euro players that are coming over and playing in the NBA. So it's just one of those things that kind of happened. I don't think it was on purpose. I think it was just, circumstance. It
Yeah.
just happened.
Yeah. I so not to deviate too much, but the only question I have, and as a Piston fan, I feel like we kind of go to y'all into this, but as far as Austin Reeves goes, given where he came from and where he is now, do you feel that he has reached his peak and this is the best that you're going to get out of Austin Reeves?
I don't know. The Every time that he got an opportunity to be the second best player on the floor, meaning when he played without LeBron James, he excelled. Now, his defense is lacking. He really needs to work on his defense. But offensively, he's great. I think we paid him maybe a tad bit more than what he's worth. Not like not crazy over though.
Right.
Um, so I think I think at what he's being paid now, the expectation goes up a little bit, on the defensive end, and he's certainly got to perform in the playoffs. He can't shrink in the playoffs. He's done that in the past. So, he played big boy basketball and now he's getting paid big boy bucks. So he's
Yeah.
just gotta, keep progressing. But hey man, he's the highest paid undrafted NBA player in all of history.
Yep.
And he's from Arkansas, so,
Yeah.
whoop Pig Sooie right there, good for him.
Oh my God. Okay.
It warms my Arkansas heart, the undrafted Arkansas kid, is making big money playing for my favorite team, the Lakers.
All right. Okay. Well, we're crossing the 40-minute mark, so let's let's go ahead and talk about some NFL, right? So we're 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away from the start of the opening of training camp across the league. And we're gonna start doing some previews here on the show, both from a positional perspective, diving a little bit on like at real NFL football and fantasy at the same time, as well as we're gonna start previewing the divisions as we get closer to the start of the NFL season. And today we're going to start with the tight end position. And I wanted to do some digging and I wanted to look at some trends happening right now as far as the tight end position over the last 5 years. Since 2021, as far as the top 5 tight ends and how they finished, right? In terms of receptions, for every year except for one, which was 2024, there's only been one tight end that accumulated more than 100 catches, except for 2024. Brock Bowers and Trey McBride both had over 100 catches, but everybody else, there's only been one. And so what's even more significant is in 2025, Trey McBride was the only one with 126, and the next one closest to him was Kyle Pitts at 88. So he completely and utterly dominated last year, and kudos to my co-host here, Angry Joey, who was able to reap the benefits of Trey McBride's work and becoming our league champion. And it still hurts me and it hurts my soul, but I digress. In addition to that, as far as touchdowns and yards per reception, the tight end position has really saw a dramatic increase as far as their overall production. And the question has been asked, like, okay, what makes an elite tight end in today's game? Well, based on the average of the top five tight ends over the past 5 years, if you obtain between 88 to 90 receptions, if you make to 950 to 975 yards, 8 to 9 touchdowns, and your yards per reception are between 12 and a half and 13. And if you have a catch percentage of at least 73%, you should be considered to be an elite tight end in the league. So I say all that to say, ESPN came out with their top 10 tight ends for 2026. And I would love to get your guys' thoughts on this. And I'll start from the bottom up. So at number 10, they have Travis Kelce ranked as the top number 10 ranked tight end in all of the league. I find that highly egregious. Mark Andrews is number 9. I also think that's a little bit high for him. Kyle Pitts at number 8. Colston Loveland at number 7. Tucker Kraft at number 6. And Tyler Warren at number 5. So I'll end it there and I'll open it up to the panel. Is there any name here in the top from 5 to 10 that seems out of whack to you?
Did you say Kelsey? Where was he ranked?
Number 10.
Well, I take issue with that. I mean, I think that he's going to actually dip like significantly, simply because they don't have anybody else to throw at, and not only that, but their offensive weapons are just not there. So I think that he's going to fall out of tight end 1 premium conversation altogether. That's just me. What were the others there, Cater?
Yeah. So Kelsey was 10. Mark Andrews was 9. Kyle Pitts was 8. Colson
Okay.
Lovin was 7.
So let's talk about Mark Andrews. I think
Okay.
he kind of showed his ass last year. I mean, I do not see him as an elite tight end anymore. And who knows? Maybe he just had a down year last year, but right now I actually have him as 17th, to be honest with
Okay.
Yeah, is that ranking fantasy ranking, or is that
No.
just
Nope.
real life?
This is strictly
Okay.
just strictly NFL. Yep. Just
Yeah.
strictly real life. Yeah.
strictly NFL. I just do not see him actually. Man, he really, really did not have a good year last year. So I don't know if any justification could be done. And who was next?
Kyle Pitts was 8.
Okay, so Kyle Pitts. Thing was with him, he's been kind of an enigma for the last few years, because I mean, the over the last 3-4 years, he hasn't done much of anything until the last half of the last year, where he really produced. I think that might be right, if not a little bit underscored. I think that Kyle Pitts might actually be even better than that. Given just it depends on the quarterback play. I mean, and are we talking about Penix actually throwing the ball, or who are we talking about? I mean
Tua.
or Tua. Yeah, exactly. And well, so Tua, well, we already know what we got with him. But Penix, I'm not a big fan of him either. So Kyle Pitts, he has all the tools. I think that he could actually be in in a different system, with a different quarterback, he could be amazing. But I just, so I think that 8 or 9, that sounds about right. If we're talking,
Is Laporta on the list?
Yes. Yes, he is. I didn't get 5 through 1 yet, but I just figured we start with the bottom half and then work our way up. But
so
I'll
I'll
be
be
honest.
honest with you. The tight ends that I actually see taking a back seat, or actually digressing this year, as much as I hate to say it, I think Trey McBride might be one of them. Simply because their team got worse. I mean, with their coaching changes and everything all included, I think that Trey McBride might actually regress a little bit this last year or this next year. I think that Brock Bowers, I think he's going to be amazing, for what he's going to be asked to do, simply because of lack of options. But the problem that he actually has is, he's in the AFC West that is absolutely stacked with really good defenses. That's the only problem that he has going for him.
I mean,
Loveland, I think he's going to be really good too. I think he's going to be a top 3 tight end.
I will say though, well, you mentioned like 3 of the next 4 in the top 10, but I did want to talk about Tucker Kraft though. Um,
That's okay.
he's 6th on this list, and I understand why there is a love for him, and he definitely has the talent, but he's coming off an ACL, and I think this is a little bit generous, to be honest, to put him at number 6.
I
Um,
I would actually place him at around 7 or 8, somewhere around in there, simply because 1, he's 25 years old.
yeah,
2, he's coming off an injury.
yeah,
And not only that, but he's also playing in the division that he's playing in. So that's kind of a tough ask. But at the same time, I mean, kind of like Brock Bowers, there's not a lot of options there in Green Bay. So,
right,
I mean, he's kind of tough to get a beat on.
yeah. Like, honestly, I would put him at 10, and I would totally put Travis Kelce completely off this list, to be honest. But he is the best athlete on the team right now, like, of all the receiving options that they have, especially with, Dontayvion Wicks and Romeo Doubs actually leaving Green Bay, so he definitely is the best established skill position player that the Green Bay Packers have, but he's also coming off an ACL, so, that's a lot to ask for and a lot of expectation placed on him. Now we'll see if he succeeds, but like I said about Brock Bowers, at least he got drafted into the AFC West, and he still has shown that he can hold his own just fine. So I I I, I think he can figure it out. And given the fact that he is able to do this with I mean, basically bumblebee tuna at quarterback the last couple of years, and he's still able to do that, I mean, speaks a lot. Now,
Not only that, but here's the thing. They actually did kind of shore up, as much as I hate to say this, because everybody on this podcast that's listening to this podcast knows that I hate the Raiders with the deepest of passions, and I want nothing but more than their demise, but at the same time, you know, you can't help but admire the talent. I mean, the dude is an amazing athlete.
yeah,
And not only that, but they also really spread the field with I think that 1 year under the belt of Genty, I think that them getting a couple more wide receivers. Now we'll see what Mendoza does. Once again, being a Bronco fan, I completely hope he shits the bed, but he could be really, really good, or he could be really, really bad. If he's really, really good, then well, the AFC West is in trouble.
yeah,
So I think that Brock Bowers, he could be amazing or he could be a bust. I mean, hold on, let me rephrase that. He's not going to be a bust. He's going to get his. But at the same time, he's not going to live up to the expectation that fantasy players are wanting to see.
yeah.
Well,
Um,
that's just my take.
Yeah, well, I'll go ahead and we'll round out the rest of the top 10 here. So number 5 was Tyler Warren, like I said. Sam Laporta came in at 4. George Kittle came in at 3. Trey McBride was 2, and Brock Bowers was 1.
Wait,
So
wait, wait,
of
wait.
this top 10
Did
list,
you say that Kittle came in at 3?
yes, at 3.
Okay,
Yes.
that's a big stretch. I
Yeah,
mean, that's a huge stretch. I mean, Kittle, when he's healthy, he's amazing.
right.
But dude, I mean, the guy can't stay healthy. How in the heck did they actually say that he's a top 10 tight end? I mean, I'm sorry, I just don't agree with that at all. I mean, and by all accounts, if you're a fantasy player, I'm trading like freaking now.
Well, I honestly, well, first of all, the of this list, of the 10, 3 of these players are either at 30 or over. So that alone, from a fantasy perspective, you already missed your window to trade for anybody. Like, if you're trying to get anything back of significance, you already missed your window. Between Kittle, Andrews, and Kelsey, you're not gonna get a lot.
I was gonna
So
say
it's
Kittle's what?
foolish to even ask for a lot, you
Yeah,
know?
I was gonna say Kittle's what, 32?
Yes. He's
Yeah, so
32.
I
Um,
mean, you'd
uh
be lucky to get a second for him, to be honest with you.
oh, dude, you should be jumping to the moon if you get something like that, man. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
he's
mean, once again, an oft injured tight end on the wrong age of 30. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's not going to do much for you.
no,
However,
especially
however
he's
said
coming off
that,
an
I
Achilles
mean,
tear
it,
as well. That's
yeah,
that's the other shocking thing about this.
that's a bad thing. Now having said that, if he does somehow miraculously come back from this big time injury that he had, which only time will tell. I mean, he is coming into a pretty potent offense, with McCaffrey in the backfield and now Mike Evans. Who
Dude,
knows? Who knows? Who knows what could happen?
they're hey, we talked about on the NBA side about, some of these teams that could potentially be old folks' homes. I mean, you look at the 49ers right now, like, their
Well,
3
yeah.
key guys are all over 30 or at 30. Like,
Well,
that's
yeah.
this. So, and unfortunately, you can't pull the San Antonio Spurs and do load management. You can't do that in the NFL. So,
Yeah.
it's asking for a lot. Again, George Kittle's coming off an Achilles tear.
Yeah.
So,
So
and he got it, and he suffered it late. So it's like, that's asking a lot, man.
yeah. Yeah, I don't I just don't see. I think that Kittle's last best days are far behind him, in my humble opinion. But who knows? I mean, miracles happen, right?
Yeah, miracles do happen. And we definitely believe in miracles on this show. But I will say that if there was anybody on that was not on this list that should have been, I think it's Harold Fannin. I think he had really showed himself to be a true tight end, player right now. I would definitely put him top 10 on the list. If not number 10, maybe number 9, especially in place of either Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce. Those 2 would definitely not be on this list. And George Kittle, out of respect, I might keep him on the list, but I would really have to look at who else I could put in his place. But
I
definitely with
I absolutely don't disagree with you. I actually have him as my number 6 tight end, to be honest with
Errol
you.
Fannin?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I
Um,
have him as my number 6. He's definitely in my top 10. I mean,
yeah,
he's gonna be dangerous.
yeah. But
And
I was
what
mhm,
is that, about Cleveland?
what?
They can get everything else messed up, but they can't, they always seem to hit on the tight end.
I don't know, man. Look, you can't be bad everywhere. You know what I mean? It's really hard to be bad everywhere.
If you don't
You
have
gotta
wide
have some bright
receivers, then
spots.
all the balls go to the tight end.
Yeah, pretty much. And with
Uh,
Jerry Judy dropping passes all the time, it was like I gotta depend on somebody.
Mm, there's that. So the rankings that I actually have, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
let's see. I still have Brock Bowers as number 1, simply because of his output and his situation, and their lack of options. I have Trey McBride second, kind of for the same reasons, really. But then I also really like Loveland.
Mhm.
I think that they have some really good stuff brewing over there. I think that Caleb Williams, he loves his checkdowns. Let me see, and then I have Tyler Warren,
Mhm.
Croft, and then I have, let's see here, Harold,
Errol
and then I
Fannin, yep.
also, yeah, and then I have Laporta, and then I have Kyle Pitts. Those are my top 2 tiers, to be honest with you. From a fantasy as well as a just an NFL perspective. Yeah. Now, I'm willing to concede the fact that Trey McBride might actually fall down a little bit just because of the change in what it is that they're doing down there. But we'll see.
Well, if I were to give a maybe a sleeper here, potentially TJ Hawkinson may make a resurgence back into the top 10 again because
Oh,
um
that's a
he
bold statement.
inherited well, yeah, but he inherited Kyler Murray to be their quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings now. So if
Okay.
if if patterns
So
remain the same, then he will fall in love with the tight end position because it'll be the first thing that he sees, and unfortunately, it'll be to the detriment of Justin Jefferson. So it could be that.
so if you're going there, then I would actually trump you with that one and say that Dalton Kincaid could actually also be in that very same argument.
Yeah, he's he's been so disappointing to be honest with you. Like eh, like Buffalo, it's not like Buffalo has had they haven't had superstars at wide receiver the entire time. Well, outside of Stephon Diggs, of course. But the 2 years that he's been gone now, no one else has stepped up to the plate for wide receivers, and Dalton Kincaid has I mean, he hasn't been very consistent, to be honest.
Well, he's been hurt a lot too. I mean, he's
Fair.
been dealing with a lot of injuries.
Yeah. That okay, that's fine. But, okay, so when would he stay on the field then? If he can't stay on the field healthy, how can he produce?
Well, I get it. The best ability is availability. But at the same time, he also has the best yak out of tight
Okay.
end over the last few years. I don't know if you knew that.
Well, I did not know that, and that's fine, but that's a little bit lopsided because, uh, he produces while he's on the field. So, it's like
Exactly. Once again, availability is the best ability.
yeah.
So as long as he's on the field, when he's catching passes, then he's getting yards. But once again, like you said, it comes down to staying on the field.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
It's definitely not I mean, the entire NFL is not an old man it's not built for old men, right? And, that once you cross that age 30, it's not a wonderful land to be in, right? So,
no, most
um,
certainly not.
yeah,
Just ask your best friend Aaron Rodgers.
yeah, okay. I don't wanna talk about him right now. Blue Pig, I know I will say, shout out to your Arkansas folks, man. Like, they I know their skill position players that they produced in the league has been pretty top notch, even though they couldn't put it all together in college. But
Yeah. What happened?
but I was just saying because it just made me think, with Sam Laporta trying to make his comeback, but it might be hard to do because Isaac Tesla is expected to make a jump this year. So
Mhm.
he still Laporta still gets the respect, but it is now a more crowded room for him as far as the skill position players are for the Lions right now. So
I
um,
sure as shit hope that Tesla actually makes a jump. I need that wide receiver help.
yeah, he's been looking pretty good in mini camps and things like that. So things are looking up for him. Um,
Cool.
but if anybody doesn't have anything else, we already crossed the hour mark, but I know we wanted to jump real quick into the AFC East if anybody has anything else on the tight ends.
No, no, I think we covered it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I wish,
uh, hmm.
I wish Jules had been here. I wanted to ask him about his QB's, girlfriend. That's
Oh,
quite
you
the
saw
look.
that.
Oh,
Yeah.
man.
For the viewers out there, for the listeners, Fernando Mendoza, he went to, like, I guess, the Raiders at a Raiders, like, some type of a media event.
Who's the gala?
Wh It was a gala? Okay, yeah. And he introduced his new girlfriend, and it's quite the
Oh,
look.
came over there in Jesus. I mean, what a scene out of Dracula she was.
It's kinda crazy,
Bro, you talk about diametrically opposed pairing between them 2?
So
right?
that's the funny thing, Okay, so this is the okay, this is the Raiders that we're talking about. Is that Taylor fit for the Raiders?
She fits the bill, no problem. She does.
Oh
He
my
doesn't.
god, she was wearing a studded collar. I mean, my god, she looked like a pickle. I mean, man, I mean, she's gonna need a freaking putty knife to get that freaking eyelashes off.
Yeah.
It
Dude,
was hilarious. Oh my god.
hey,
I saw that. It bring so much joy to my life. I just gotta say.
hey, look, now here on the 210 show, we don't judge folks, okay? We
Yeah.
don't judge people.
No,
We're
no,
just
no, 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 no judgment or anything like
yeah,
that.
no judgment. We're just
But
pointing out
you're
the fact
still
that the
you're still fitting the status quo is what I'm saying.
yeah, we're just pointing out the personality
Yeah, the
dichotomy
Indiana
between
choir boy with
yeah,
the goth mama. It's just
yeah,
like, what the
yeah.
it's like,
We
Dude,
did
I saw
we
that
did not see
picture. I
that
just
coming, bro.
about pissed
We
myself. I was like, "Yeah, you go, you do you there, dude." Oh, that's awesome.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Las Vegas is wearing off on him already.
Uh, right? You know what I mean? He hasn't even taken a pass yet. So, who knows what's to come after that. Um, but as we transition so we're gonna do some previews here, division by division, and, we're gonna start off today with the AFC East. So, I'm going to allow Angry Joey to take us on this ride.
All right, the AFC East. So, in my estimation, this is one of the more easier ones to call. And what I mean by calling is who's going to win. What placement they're going to be, so on and so forth. I think that by and large, Miami they're tanking. They lost all their skill positions. They've lost everything. They are going to finish absolute bottom last. In fact, I would actually venture to bet they're going to be the number one overall pick in next year's draft. And that's not a bad thing, and when you're looking at it from their perspective, because I think they have 13 picks. Is that right there, Hater? Something
I
like that.
am
They
I am
have a
not sure, but
shit
I'll
ton
look
of
it up
picks.
real fast.
So they have a lot of picks, so they've invested in the future. And to be fair, I mean, if you're a fantasy player, or excuse me, if you're a dynasty fantasy player, that's what you want to take note of. If you're finishing dead middle, once again, and we've said this before, you tank your team. Well, no, you don't tank your team or anything like that, because you get messed up for that. But what you do is you don't want to finish dead middle. That's the worst place you can finish. So what you do then is you blow your team up, and that's exactly what Miami is doing. They're hitting the pound reset button, and they're starting over.
Yeah,
Okay,
control alt delete.
as, eh, as well they should. Just because they lost all their skill positions. Waddle, he actually went to Denver, and then Hill, he's out doing Hill things. And then, the only skill position that they really have that's of any virtue whatsoever is A Chain. So
Yep.
what do you think defenses are actually going to do? When they're actually playing the Dolphins, they're going to stack the freaking line,
Yeah.
and they're going to beat the hell out of that little man. So the Dolphins are going to finish dead last. I mean, I think they're going to be the number one overall pick. Second is, in my opinion, the Jets. I mean, they're a head scratcher. I mean, because they have good players, good, at decent positions. With Brees Hall and so on and so forth. I was talking to a Hater just a little bit ago, and he pointed out a couple of facts about the Jets, that I was not aware of. The fact that they actually went through the entire last season without a single interception. Did I hear
That
that
is
right there?
that is correct. Yep.
That is unprecedented. I,
Yes.
I want to go back and go through the history sheets and see if that's ever happened before. You know, especially in an 18-game season, for the love of God. How does that happen? Where are your corners? Where is your secondary? My goodness. Where's your pass defense? So, I mean, here the Jets were, they actually had this vaunted defense the year before, and all of a sudden they just are non-existent. Remarkable. Okay, so that actually leaves the Bills and the Patriots. Okay. So this is the enigma. The Bills, how do I say this? They just, I hate to say it, because, I'm such a big Josh Allen fan, but the team just does not know how to get over that last hump. And thankfully for the Broncos last year, they didn't. But at the same time, they 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 just don't know how to get to the next step. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Uh, you know, uh, uh, they don't know how to really win. They have a great team, but they just don't know how to kick it in the ass and really put it into overdrive. So I'm actually putting them at second, and then New England, yeah, they somehow managed to win the division last year and, tiptoe their way into the Super Bowl and then get their ass kicked. But at the same time, to get to the dance, you have to win your way to the dance. So that's the way I see it. I see the Patriots, the Bills, the Jets, and Miami.
Well, I I'll start with this. Well, first of all, to buttress your point, the Dolphins had 13 picks in this year's draft and 26. They have 9 picks next year. So, like you said, when it comes down to tanking, if you're well, rebuilding, I'm sorry, not tanking. But when it comes down to rebuilding, the only way you could do that is with draft picks, and they have plenty between this year's draft and next year. So they're in their window to restock the cupboard, as they say. And I am a little bit concerned for Devon Chan because I have him on my fantasy team. He's going to prove that little dynamo can really do the best he can with very, very little. And I know I'm sorry, Malik Willis is going to be the quarterback of the team. But I heard him he had an interview it was about a month ago. I think they're coming out of minicamp. And even he sounded like he wasn't sure how the team was going to be. Like, he sounded unsure as hell. Like, there was no confidence in that at all. I was like, okay, this is going to be great for them. So I agree with you, Angry Joey. I feel like they're definitely going to be pushing for the number one overall pick, and they definitely need it. So it is what it is for them, and everybody's going to be circling them to get a dub from them. Same with the Jets. Now, the only difference, I mean, you talking about, two cheeks of the same ass. It's definitely the Miami Dolphins and the New York Jets. I feel sorry for Aaron Glenn, the head coach. I feel like they're setting him up to be fired before the season even ends. Eh, Brees Hall, Garrett Wilson aside, eh, they really have nothing else. Like, it's just an utter dumpster fire, and they continue to make themselves that way. It just makes no sense. So they'll be looking for a new coach next year, and whoever that coach is will, maybe they'll have the number one pick. I don't know, but at least there are plenty of quarterbacks coming out next year that they can actually try to fix their fortunes really quickly. Now, like you said, the top of the division is really between the Patriots and the Bills. They both have their own issues and problems, but I can say at the very least, the Patriots have tried to address their biggest issue, which is the number one receiver, and they got it in A.J. Brown. Now, it was one of the worst kept secrets of all time, thanks to Diana Rossini, but they got it done, and now he's in their fold now with Mike Vrabel. It's just all about Drake May. Surround him with talent and make sure that the Super Bowl run wasn't a 1 year thing for them. But the defense is going to be fine, but the offense just needs to gel together a little bit more. Trevion Henderson and Ramondre Stevenson at running back to help with that team. Now they are a little lacking at tight end. Hunter Henry is a little long in the tooth, but he's still respectable. But I thought it would have been behooved them to get a little bit more help there with a more athletic tight end. But they want to get the number one receiver in their fold, and they definitely did that. Now, going to the Buffalo Bills, finally, again, Josh Allen has to do the most with the least. They just continuously do this all the time. They're just stubborn as hell, and I mean, he's making almost 15% of the total cap right now. So it is what it is, and he's approaching 30. So, hey, man, you just got to make it work. I, my only question for him is, will he continue to be as aggressive as far as him running the ball or running with the ball? Will he still do that? I think for his own health, I don't think that's the best thing for them to do. But at the same time, they barely address the wide receiver position. I mean, yeah, you got DJ Moore, you brought him in, but he's almost approaching 30 himself, and he even underperformed when he was with Chicago. So I don't know if it's an actual plus up in comparison to what they already had. We'll see. But Khalil Shakir, he's decent, but I forgot who the wide receiver. Keon Coleman. He's the X factor of anything. If he doesn't do anything, and he still continues to be the first round draft bust that he's currently on the track for, then there's going to be continue to be the same, more of the same for the Buffalo Bills. But I think schedule wise, I think the edge for me goes to Buffalo more than New England. I think there's going to be a little bit more growing pains for them. And so if I were to rank this division, at least right now, before we get into training camp, and I will preface that everybody has the opportunity to make any changes to their predictions here before the season starts. So for me, I'm going Buffalo to win the division very, very closely, probably by like one game. The Bills, the Patriots, the Jets, and the Dolphins will finish last.
All right, good take.
This brings up this topic brought up an interesting point that at some point we need to have the conversation about, not today, but at some point, about how the NFL and the NBA handle tanking differently.
Mm.
Because honestly, I think we'll talk about it later, but I think the NFL's got it right, and I think the NBA's got it wrong. But
Mm.
we at some point
Okay.
should bring that topic back up, talk about it at some point.
Okay. I'm making a note of it right now. Okay.
So
Well, we'll pick what. Did you have a prediction for this division?
No, not at the moment. No, I'm still watching.
Okay. All right. Well, I think we cleared the slate, gentlemen. We are a little over an hour, but that's okay.
Well, I did want to bring up one thing
Sure.
back on the NBA, but a couple podcasts before we were talking about the Spurs and what they needed to do,
Yep.
and I brought up the fact what they need to keep their head coach and bring in an experienced assistant coach.
Yes.
And congrats to the Spurs. That's exactly what they did. They brought in Billy Donovan as an assistant coach. I think that was a fantastic hire by the Spurs to bring in some of that, experience to help their young, talented coach. That's why I always thought they should keep their head coach because he's talented and he really gets a lot out of that young core. But I just think that they needed that experience, to that he can lean on. So good on the
agreed.
Spurs.
I mean, I think that okay, so he was inexperienced, but at the same time, he's exuberant, he's energetic, he actually has a lot of passion. I think he's a good coach. He just didn't quite grasp the levity of the playoffs. And what the Knicks actually brought into the game, I mean, it was something that he had never been accustomed to, so yeah, I totally agree with you, dude.
Well, there was additional breaking news that I saw as well that the Spurs are bringing back Chris Paul as an assistant coach as well.
Oh, wow.
So
Really?
yes. So yeah. So that was I just saw that crossed the wire maybe about 2 hours ago. So
Yeah, I don't think that's
so
bad. I mean, he'll be a
no.
player's coach, he's recent and I think he's a very cerebral player, a very smart player. So that usually point guard, like cerebral point guards usually translate pretty well into coaches.
Well, not only that, but he actually played with the Spurs at one point.
Yeah.
So that kind of
So
For a
that's
couple years.
I like that too. I think that,
Yep.
the Spurs are making good moves as far as their coaching tree.
Yep.
yeah.
And not only that, too, I think he was very instrumental in the growth of Stephon Castle from when he was drafted till what, the explosion that he had from this year. So now he gets to come back, help with him and Dylan Harper. I think this is outstanding. This is outstanding job by San Antonio here.
Yeah, I'm a big Chris Paul fan. I've always enjoyed it. I always
Yeah.
hoped he could have gotten a ring before he retired. It never happened. It never,
Agreed.
Agreed.
But
Agreed. He was always a class act. He
Yeah,
was
yeah.
yeah.
I didn't want him to do it
negative.
with the Lakers, but yes, I did want him. I didn't want him as a person to succeed on the basketball floor. I just didn't want him to do it, with the swindling of the trade deal that almost went down for him to go to the Lakers. So
Well, he was a longtime Clippers, so for me to give him his due
yes,
that shows you how much respect I had for him. So,
yeah,
um,
absolutely,
yeah, I wish him the best, moving into coaching.
absolutely, absolutely. All right, okay. Well, if that's it for everybody, we will now use this segment, if possible, to we call this "Kiss My Grits," and so Kiss My Grits are Alamo Minute. And so what that means for those who are new is Kiss My Grits is for anything that we have seen or observed, could be a person, place, or thing, that is absolutely asinine and needs to be called out to the carpet. And an Alamo Minute is the opposite. If there's something that is outstanding and should be praised and saluted by us, it is our opportunity to bring that to the forefront. So I I don't have Alamo Minute or Kiss My Grits this week. So I will turn it over to Angry Joey. Do you have a Alamo Minute or Kiss My Grits?
Okay, so I don't have an angry, I don't have a angry grits right now, but or kiss my grits right now. I have one brewing, but I need to formulate it. But I will say that I do have an Alamo minute, and that is to there's a little Jalisco right next to where we live called Uncle Joe's. And every single time I go there, they have some of the best breakfast tacos ever. And once again, this is not sponsored or anything like that. I'm just giving them a shout out, because they are really, really good. They're very, very delightful people, and they give you a lot of really, really good food. So anyway, that's one of the ones that I want to call out is to Uncle Joe's. That's it for me.
Do you have anything?
No, we kinda talked about it off air. I guess the only thing I'd have would be my kiss my grits would be Stephen A. Smith's take on the Lakers. I'm sure everybody's aware of it. It was racist and I think ill-informed. I'm not gonna get totally into it, but yeah, Stephen A., do better. Come on now. That's just not cool. So, anyways, that's it for me.
Absolutely.
Agree.
And
Agree. Agree.
you did trigger something for me just a bit, but it's completely different realm though. I do want to give a shout out to former NFL running back Chris Johnson. Man, it was he announced a couple. I think
Oh,
it's been about a
ALF.
week ago.
ALF,
Yeah,
right?
that he has ALS, and so it has taken his speech at this point. I think he was diagnosed like late last year, and so but he's doing his best to bring awareness, and he's gonna keep fighting as best he possibly can. I just wanted to give just prayers and well wishes not only to him but his wonderful wife and his children as they in battle with this debilitating disease every single day. So prayers up to him and his family.
Well said there,
Absolutely.
Hater.
Yeah.
I totally second that. It's a hell of a thing. I mean, I don't know if anybody's actually been has seen that in process, but it is not a pleasant thing. So yeah, I
Yeah,
totally second that.
yeah. So yeah, so I guess that is it. So for thank you, gentlemen, for taking the time out to help me host the show today. Our fearless leader, he could not join us today, but he'll definitely be with us on the next recording, definitely. But if you want to get a hold of us, you can catch us on Apple, Spotify, or Overcast at the 210 Show. If you want to catch us on YouTube, we're at the 210 Show Pod. We would like to thank all of currently we're at 25 subscribers, and we appreciate every single one of those. If you're new and you're listening to us for the first time, if you hit us up on YouTube, please leave us a comment. Please we take all critiques well. If there's anything that we said on the show that you want to respond to, please leave it down in the comments. Hit the thumbs up button if you like what we're doing, and help us spread the show throughout the world. I understand that our subscribers are worldwide, and we appreciate that, but we want to spread it further, so please share it with a friend, and we'll definitely appreciate that.
Yeah,
So
I was surprised. I was surprised. I thought I was gonna get more heat from all the Spurs fans. I
yeah,
was ready
yeah,
for it.
you safe for now.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like but but anyway, again, gentlemen, thank you for joining me today. And to the rest of the world, God bless you and good night. We'll catch you on the next one.
Whoop it.
Peace.